All right, so let's go over this. This is one of the ideas where we have the properties of limits. And what we're looking for here is, I know you can do probably all of this in your head. If we apply the limit itself, or the rule itself, the first thing is we have the limit as x goes to -2 of f of x to the third power. Well, let's take that third power and pull it to the outside. And we're going to do the limit as x approaches -2 of f of x first. So we'll figure out what that answer is, and then we'll cube it. So if I want to approach -2, notice this is a two-handed limit. So the left-handed side and the right-handed side have to touch at -2. So we're going to figure out where is -2. Here's -2 on my graph, and you can see the left-handed limit is approaching -2. The right-handed limit is approaching -2. So the two-handed limit is -2. And -2 to the third power is -2 times itself 3 times, which is -8. All right, I've got some important information to talk about here. Seniors, this is your last week of high school. It's gone by really fast, and so will this week. So we're at Tuesday here. We're going to do an in-class limits review today. It's on Schoology. And then the homework tonight is another Delta Math review. If you do both of these pretty confidently, I think you will ace the test tomorrow. Or Thursday, I should say. The important thing about Thursday is my gradebook closes completely, except for when I grade this test. I'm going to grade the test Thursday. You will be able to see it, and then your job on Friday is to look at your score for this test, and did you score less than 70%? If so, you do the remediation that's in Delta Math, and I will raise your test score up to a 70%. Otherwise, your grade is pretty much finalized after Thursday. You turn in all your work. Now, it might take me all of Friday to grade the late work that may have been turned in, but you have until Thursday at 11:59 p.m. to turn in any missing work. And then my goal Friday is to kind of get grades finalized and ready to go. So what does that mean for juniors next week? Juniors, you still have to attend school next week. However, we don't have school on Monday. So I will see you Tuesday, and that'll just be a quick check-in. We'll do an end-of-the-year survey. It's really not going to be a lot, because we've already done everything. So it might be a quick 5-10 minute Zoom, and then you guys are out of here. Unfortunately, juniors in person, bring something else to do. And then Thursday is really going to be just show up for attendance, give me a virtual high five, and you're out of here. So end of the year is coming very close. Please make sure that you know the late work has to be in by this Thursday at 11:59. All right, so we've got two. Using this graph, these two graphs, we're going to do that composite piece of a limit. I feel like this, when I look back at the homework and the quiz from last week, I noticed this was an area of struggle. So I have one problem here, and then I decided to make another problem using the same graphs. Those of you that can't see it, this is the graph of g of x, and this is the graph of f of x. But I'd like you to go ahead and try this one first, and then go ahead and do this one down here. Let's see what you got. We'll give you a minute or two to work through that. So remember, with the composition of functions, we want to treat this as an inside-outside function. So you're going to do the inner limit first, and this is the way that I would approach it. We're going to take the limit as x approaches -8 of g. So we're going to do that inner part first. As I approach -8 here, notice there's an open circle at -8. That's fine. It can be an open circle. A limit is not the exact location. It's where the graph is headed. So I'm looking at the two-handed limit as I approach from the left-hand side and from the right-hand side. And you can see that both the left and the right-hand sides are going to touch, and they're going to approach 0. So the limit of the inner function is going to go to 0. And then we're going to use that with the outside function. So you can kind of think of it as now doing the limit as x approaches 0 of f. So I'm just going to apply the outside. That means I'm focusing at the 0 spot. Well, now notice the left-handed side is not equal to the right-handed side. Those two limits do not touch. Therefore, my answer is does not exist because the two-handed limit is not existent. The left side doesn't touch the right side. Okay? Now, what if we switch this around and I try a problem, same setup, f of g of negative 5. Well, if I do the inner limit first of g as g approaches negative 5, let's look at it. Here's negative 5. So if I figure, notice it's continuous there. There's nothing tricky. So we know the left hand equals the right hand, and that limit is equal to negative 5. So now I'm going to take the limit of f as it approaches this limit's answer, which was negative 5. And where are we at negative 5? Not a perfect friendly number. We're going to have to estimate, but if you said something like 2.5, you're right on. So I just noticed that that was one of the areas that we didn't do wonderful on. So hopefully that cleared some things up. The other thing, we just haven't done this in a while, and I went back to look at old quizzes from a couple weeks ago. I think we struggled with composition of functions in general. So I'd like you to find f of g of negative 4, and here's f and here's g. And then I've got a separate problem down here that is basically the same thing, except for now we're using the graph, find g of f of negative 7. And these are our last two problems we're going to do together in class, and then it's your time to work. So give those a shot. All right, let's take a look at this one. I tried to pick one that had the more unique notation. Remember, another way to write this is f of g of negative 4. So these two notations mean the exact same thing. And usually students do better with the second notation that I wrote because you can see the innermost function. We have to figure out what is g of negative 4 first. So I'm basically going to plug negative 4 in here. Negative 4 times negative 2 is a positive 8. Positive 8 minus 11 is a negative 3. So this whole piece becomes negative 3. And then I didn't do anything with f of x yet. Now I have to take the new input, negative 3, and I'm going to plug it in right here into f. So I might show a little more work on this one. Just be careful that, I always say use your brain, because if you grab your calculator and you do negative 3 squared without parentheses, it'll give you the wrong answer, right? Negative 3 squared is a positive 9. 9 times 3 is a positive 27. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Minus 2. However you want to write this, I'm thinking of this as 14. 27 minus 14 is 13. So f of g of x is negative 4 is 13. Now you basically have the exact same concept in this next problem with graphs. All you're doing is you're just basically doing the same thing. You're figuring out what is f of negative 7. So I got to figure out which graph is f. Where's negative 7? Here's negative 7. We're just reading the location of that point, and that output is 9. So that answer is 9. But now I'm going to apply g of 9. So we're going to go over the 9 on the function g. Where does that go? And this is where, especially probably from your angle, that's not a great value, but it looks to me like it's negative 5. So, what we just did in this guided warm-up, or an extended warm-up, I should say, is we covered 3 or 4 of the concepts that I noticed we struggled with on quizzes and tests. And I really hope that that clears up, or at least gives you a little better frame of reference for each type of problem, because we have our test tomorrow, Thursday. So I do want you to know, it's 20 questions long. It is worth 50 points. And so like some of the questions are worth 2 points, some are worth 3 or 4, but it has a total of 50 points, which is the same as our other tests this year. I just want you to know that we've spent 3 or 4 weeks on limits and piecewise functions. It is in Delta Math, so we'll take that in class on Thursday. Topics covered, composite functions, and just sometimes students don't connect with that word composite, but that's exactly what we just did. If I told you to find f of g of 5, right, that is the same as f of g of 5. So you just should be familiar with either notation. Piecewise functions. We did a lot of work on piecewise functions during that first week of this unit. You're going to get 2 different types of review today that review piecewise functions, so you may need to go back and look at the notes. But if you're good with piecewise functions and how the graphs look, that ties in to evaluating limits as well. And then the last chunk of this test was evaluating limits from a table, from a graph, and algebraically. So here's my plan for today, is we have, and I will post these notes, so I'll post these, you can always go back and look at them. But in Schoology, there's a limits piecewise review function that you will have 20 attempts on. It's treated as just an assignment. I think there's like 20 some questions, but some of them are really quick. Here's a graph, tell me the limit. And then it automatically scores it, and your highest score will be counted. But it's only a 5-point assignment. So if you do get 3, it's going to give you some weird answers too, or weird numbers. You might get like 3.92 as a score. Okay, you could keep working at it. You can do up to 20 attempts to try to get as high as you can out of a 5. But that's the in-class activity. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to look at the results of this, and then those of you that are going to come back to the afternoon session at 1:35, we're going to use those results and actually start saying, hey, you know what, as a class, we really missed these concepts, and we're going to help review, which will give you a better overall idea of how well you're going to do on the test on Thursday. Okay? The actual homework tonight is Delta Math. So, what I'd like you to do is you're going to go to our Pre-Calculus Schoology folder. Under this week's folder, week 11, you will go to the Tuesday folder, and that's where you'll find the limit review. It'll also be in your gradebook or on your little side dashboard. But when you click on that limits review, you'll have, it isn't timed, but it looks like it's a quiz or a test. This is just an assignment. And that's what we want to work on for the rest of the hour. If you finish with this, then you can start the Delta Math homework tonight. And that's, other than the test, that's it for the year. So that's what we got. Those of you who are on Zoom, you are welcome to come back at 1:35 today. Just use the same link to get into class, and I'll have Zoom open. And we're going to review the results of this little Schoology review piece. All right. If you understand everything that's going on, you don't have any questions, you are free to leave Zoom. See you on Thursday.